I've undertaken a lot of small projects on this channel, but something I've never done is undertake a massive project. But there's a first time for everything. So I'm going to be taking myself and the hand cycle I built on a ride from Geneva all along the Swiss border, all the way up to Luxembourg. So without further ado, let's go. Switzerland is home to one of the largest mountain ranges in the world, the Western Alps. These mountains house some of the most rugged and difficult terrain to ride. Which makes it the perfect place for us to test my hand cycle. We begin our journey in the Swiss city of Geneva. Where we start by riding along the beautiful lakefront on the shores of Lake Geneva. It's day one and we're only doing 15 kilometers today. Basically we decided first day better start off easy to make sure we can do it. Unfortunately it is exceptionally hot, which means that I am sweating my literal balls off. Luckily our campsite is at the edge of Lake Geneva, which means that we can have a nice swim at the end of the day. The thing about Geneva is it's one of those places you always hear about, but you never really know what it looks like. Once I arrived there, it was one of the most stunning cities I'd ever been in. However, I didn't have long to marvel at the view because I soon found myself climbing up the steepest hill I've ever been on. The hill might not have been great, but the view at the top certainly was. And as evening began to fall, we found ourselves in the French-Swiss border town of Ermans, where we planned to spend the night. Day one is complete, and we are tenting for the night. I'm actually exhausted. The riding wasn't that hard, but it was 2 days to get here, and it was 2 long days. So hopefully I get a bit of energy back for tomorrow. See ya. Soon, evening turned into night, and it was time to hit the sack. As the sun rose over the lake, we prepared ourselves for the longest day on this trip. An 80-kilometer ride from Ermans all the way to Evian Les Bains. Last night was actually a pretty banging night. I got a good sleep, I got some good rest, and I fixed most of the problems that occurred on day one. So, theoretically, we shouldn't have too many issues going forward. Unfortunately, I did somehow manage to burst my brake nuts. How that happened, God knows. But it did, and now I have no back brake. Hopefully I'll be able to repair that tonight. But for now, we're chugging along to a random city. The day began on nice, smooth, tarmac roads with no traffic at all, which was an absolute dream. However, that soon devolved into gravel. Fortunately, though, that's what I built this for. Some idiot had decided that it would be ideal to put some rocks on the path, which meant that when I tried to move my hand cycle over it, I flipped it. Yay. Although we thought we were in the clear now, when we arrived in the hilltop town of Schweiz, I discovered a bit of a problem. The weirdest thing has just happened. Yep, that's right. There's a rock replacing one of the teeth in my derailleur. How ideal is that? With the rock removed, we cracked on, because there's still a long way to go, and I didn't have time for any issues like replacing my derailleur. And obviously, because this is Switzerland, we ended up climbing yet another near vertical hill that I was completely unprepared for. Climbing up this hill is when I really realised that this wasn't just a mode of transport. I had built myself something fun, and I enjoyed using it. Love story aside, we soon had to go back down the hill, where I let off the brakes and had some fun. At the base of the hill, we found ourselves in the beautiful French town of Evian Les Bains. As beautiful as the seafront was, this wasn't the overnight halt. So we pressed on up the hill to the campsite, which was a very nice place for an overnight halt. However, it wasn't open for a couple of hours, so I had to sit in a parking lot. Yay. Not being able to get in wasn't the end of the world, because I was very hungry, so I used this as an opportunity to scran a meal. And as night fell, I came to the realization I didn't have time to do the full original trip. I have realized I'm not going to make it on this trip in time. So the plan is now, tomorrow I'm going to hop in a car and drive from here in Evian Les Bains all the way to the Swiss town of Andermatt on the other side of the Alps. So, for the first time on this trip, I got up in the morning and didn't get on my bike. The plan today is to drive over the Alps from Evian Les Bains to Andermatt. We're on the top of the Alps. In the end, we decided our final destination for the day should be Flim's Bike Park. There was a great campsite, and I got to go on a quick ride to loosen up my muscles. We started day 4 off with a climb up the mountains. This way we could reach the Rhine River and ride down it until we reached Liechtenstein. However, right as I thought I couldn't climb a hill anymore, it turned into a downhill, and my God, was it a ride. Unfortunately for me, my brakes went out, which meant I had to wait till I slowed down and roll to a stop. This was of course because my brake hose had burst. I still did have one working brake, so I pressed on nonetheless. And it wasn't long before we arrived next to the Rhine. And finally, the end was in sight. There was nothing that could go wrong here. All I had to do was keep the Rhine on my left, and I would end up in Liechtenstein. That was, of course, until the river forked, and I ended up having to cross this tiny bridge, where I got lost. Because this is not Liechtenstein. This is some random town, and I don't know how to get out of it. Luckily for me, though, this is Switzerland. So everyone speaks English, and I soon found myself back on the path. Alright, nothing can possibly go wrong now. Fine. And as I crossed the bridge, I reflected back on all the good times we'd had on this trip.